Well, hello. This is going to be an interesting deck profile to make. I never thought I would make one of these where it's a regionals top. Technically, I'm saying it, but it's very barely not top 16. But I am taking it as a top 16 simply because it's a bubble. But I'm very excited for this one. I put a lot of effort into this list, a lot of testing, a lot of theory, a lot of effort truly went into making this list work, and I feel like it really paid off. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we'll start off with, of course, the Digidamas. We are running a blue deck, so we're on 4 Wanyamon, 1 Bujo. Not much else to really say. Draw power deck, jamming randomly, Ukamon on top of this, ridiculous. Spoilers, we're also running Ukamon. So then into the list itself, first off we have 4 of the BT15 Digimon. Very generic rookie for the deck. Search top 3, grab a free trait, so it's any armor form and a Davison name, which is just insane value. End of turn DNA we don't use in the deck whatsoever, we just simply ignore it. Move on. Then next we have 4 of the promo Digimon. This is the new promo. Ridiculous card in this deck. If you've got a Tamer in play, reduce the evolution cost by 1. So we may have 1 cost Evos, we can have 2 cost Magnas. And when attacking inherit, if it's at 2 or more colours, draw 1, not once per turn either, so if you armor purge and restand you can draw again. Insane card, honestly. Then we have 2 of the old ST9 Digimon. These were simply added just because I felt like the deck needed a little bit more search, and this is just the easiest thing to add in for just finding armor forms. Then we have 3 of the good old classic Jamming Vmon. This card's still ridiculous in Armor Rush. Especially right now, you fire rocket on an armor and suddenly it's, oh, I need to purge it, but the second check goes through with jamming. Insane card. Then to top out the rookies, we are running 3 of the Pokemon. Again, since we're a rush deck, Ukamon just makes sense. It gives us insane value. If Ukamon stick to the board for multiple turns, we just cycle through eggs constantly and consistently, and it's honestly just a ridiculous card. So now moving on to the level 4s. Shockingly to some, we are on 4 of the Hydramon, or Raydramon as it should be called. I think this card is really good this format. It's a 2 cost Evo over Vmon. If you're over promo Vmon, it's a 1 cost Evo potentially. Tapping a level 4 or lower this format is extremely good, because you've got decks like Numemon, you've got Ukamons everywhere. Being able to just snipe those away pretty quickly helps a lot, especially against Numemon, where you're just sniping lower cost bodies a lot to try and stop them from getting anywhere really. Then we're on to 4 BT8 Magmon. Still one of the main staples of this deck, an absolutely ridiculous card. Basically what I think is the main boss monster of this deck. When Digivolving, untap it, and it gains 2k from heavy armor form and trash. Very frequently this was sitting at least like plus 17k blocker, which is ridiculous for some decks to try and deal with. Decks like Shine, they can try, but the DP minus is probably not enough until they get to burst mode. And even then, it's just going to sit there as a blocker to really hard stop the OTK play. And speaking of ridiculous cards, we have the new ST17 Magna. This card is ridiculous, it's insane. It has a security effect for some ungodly reason, where it de-digivolves any Digimon on the board. Literally any Digimon. So it can be your own Digimon, which we'll get into why you would do that in a minute. It can be any opponent's Digimon, anything is up for grabs, and then it will cause the battle to happen, and this is a 7k body. So there's a lot of times where you'll de-digivolve something, and immediately during the battle, the body will die, essentially. Then, at the end of battle, you can digivolve into this Magnamon without paying the cost. So if you have a valid Vmon target, you can just digivolve into this, and then immediately, when digivolving, trash the top source of any of your opponent's Digimon for each colour that Digimon has. So against decks like Shine Greymon, you're immediately trashing two sources. There was a play I had against Shine during the regionals where they left the Shine Greymon unsuspended with a Marcus on board as well. That was still classed as a Digimon, so you go into Magnamon, you strip two sources, bounce the Marcus back to hand, swing into the Shine Grey, force the Armor Purge, digivolve into another one. We're still suspended though, we don't unsuspend this one, but immediately that then gets rid of the last two sources on the Shine and bounces it back to hand immediately, just clearing a Marcus and a Shine for very little resource. Ridiculous. So now moving into the level 5, so it's not an awful lot, but we are on 3 Zudomons. I think still undoubtedly one of the best aces in the game. Like, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. On play, strip two sources, bounce something sourceless to hand, and when digivolving. Ridiculously low cost, low committal removal, especially for this format, where there's a lot of tiny bodies floating around. Then into the level 6s, we are on a singular copy of Magnamon X. This I was very 50-50 about actually running or not. In the end I decided just one is fine, because I was going into regionals expecting to pair into a lot of Mirage. That didn't happen in the end, but this card is essentially useless against decks like Shine, against decks like Mirage, Levia even. There's just a lot of decks that immediately deal with this being on board, but decks like Numemon can really struggle against it, so I decided to keep it just as a one-off. It didn't really come up, but it felt like it could have at times. Then of course, level 7s to a definite spot. These are not actually mine, I borrowed them for the event, but shoutouts to Reggie for letting me borrow them, because these are very expensive cards and I cannot be bothered to buy them yet. Would not have placed nearly as well as I did without these. These were absolutely a saving grace on so many levels. It was honestly insane how often these saved my ass. And then onto the options, we're going to be on 3 Fire Rocket. I don't think I need to explain Fire Rocket for Armor Rush. Give any armor form body +1 security attack for the turn. Ridiculous. It's just insane aggro, insane card in general. Security effect does come up sometimes, just random things just to block her now. Like the Numemons can end up having blocker, or well, that's really it off the top of my head, but you know. Then we're on to Mental Training. I wanted to bump this up a little bit, but I was really struggling to find the space, but I might get into why in a minute. This is just generically good. There's a lot of off-colour options where it won't find stuff, but just banking a reduced evil cost by 2 felt really good, especially for going into Magnamons to stall out turns or Magnamons to close games. Very good card. Then we'll get on to honestly one of the main beasts of the deck, 4 copies of Heaven's Judgment. This card is just ridiculous. I think this is one of the best cards ever printed in the TCG right now. simply because it also activates if you've got a green source in play, which means if we've got Raidramon or the BT8 Magna, this is online, and we just immediately minus like 18k aboard without much thought, which helps so much in clearing boards like Davis. It helps clear boards against Numi. It's ridiculous. Then on to Tamers, we are on 4 of the Promo Davis. This card is ridiculous as well. On play a VMon or Digivolve into X VMon without paying the cost. Of course, all we're going to be doing is playing a VMon from this. But every single start of main phase, we're going to get a memory at the start of turn. If we've got a free trait in play, which I think I forgot to mention as well, Ukromon is also a free trait, so both VMon searchers also do grab Ukromon, which is something that a lot of people have slept on, I feel like, and it is a ridiculous thing you can do in this deck. So we're on 4 of him, we are on 2 of the Louis. This card also just closes games. So often, it is insane. 3 cost, when you play him you can raise out whatever's in your raising area, if it's a level 3 Digimon or higher, and whenever you raise something, you tap the tamer and gain a memory. So essentially he's always a 2 cost at minimum tamer, unless you're hard playing him whenever you don't have anything to raise for some reason. This is just a ridiculously good card in my opinion. I think just having constant memory cycle is just a ridiculous thing to have in a deck, and this deck recurs memory so often and so well. Even with this last card that I have here, sometimes it felt it wasn't needed, but having it was also insane at the same time. So we're going to flip it over. It is a tamer. We are on a singular copy of Memory Setter Davis. This card sometimes just said, I'm going to go to 6 memory every turn now. If I had Davis, a Louis, and let's say 2 Promo Davises, right? This was a very, very easy setup to have. Every turn, even if I didn't have something to raise, I was going to go to 5 memory minimum, as long as I had a free trait in play. That is a lot of memory to play with every single turn. If I was raising something, I would go to 6 immediately. But I will post a proper picture of the deck list if I remember to edit it in. Matchups overall during the day, we had Beelzemon, round 1, which we won pretty solidly. Not too much trouble. Round 2 was Yellow Vaccine, which was a little tricky, but we still managed to pull it through for another dub. Probably one of the scariest matchups I had all weekend was Hunters. Shockingly, I wasn't expecting to run into Hunters, and they actually placed really well. I believe they were 5th overall, which was really good, honestly. Really good showing for that deck. Hunters, I think this deck isn't well enough equipped to deal with. Hunter's removal is way too strong for this deck, and the aggro potential ends up giving them too many tamers to play back from, which was exactly what happened. I did choke the game. Game 2 I lost because I missed a trigger and I wouldn't let anyone else take it back during regionals, so I didn't let myself take it back. I was only being fair. Round 4, I believe we had Shine Grey, which I've already went over. We won that pretty solidly. Game 1 we'd OTK'd, but you can't really do much against OTK high roll. Game 2 and 3 we controlled the board well enough to stop the OTKs from happening and moved on. Round 5 we had Numemon, which was shockingly my first time fighting Numemon, but this deck I feel really controls Numi boards well. You have the starter deck Magna to clear bodies before they get anywhere. You can memory choke really easily. And then last round we had another Numi. Sadly we didn't pull through this time. We had a really bad brick game 2 and essentially just couldn't play the game, and that's how the run ended, which I'm still a little miffed about, but it happens. But I think this was a really fun deck, a really fun send off to the format before this deck becomes the big boogeyman of the format, Knights format. And I don't know how to close off these videos, so I will catch you guys around.